Have you ever looked at someone you loved and wondered why, despite giving everything you had, you still felt unseen, unheard, or unappreciated? Have you ever convinced yourself that if you just tried a little harder, loved a little deeper, or sacrificed a little more, everything would finally fall into place? If that sounds familiar, then today's message is exactly what you need to hear. Because the truth about relationships isn't always comforting, but it is incredibly freeing. We grow up believing that love is supposed to fix everything. We are told that if two people truly care about each other, they will somehow overcome every obstacle. But real life doesn't work that way. Love alone cannot repair broken trust. Love alone cannot change someone who refuses to grow. Love alone cannot heal wounds that another person keeps reopening. That's not negativity, that's reality. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner you stop wasting your life waiting for someone else to become the person you hope they will be. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that people don't always love us the way we deserve to be loved. Sometimes they love us according to their own limitations, their own fears, and their own emotional capacity. That doesn't necessarily make them bad people, but it does mean that staying in a relationship where your needs are constantly ignored won't suddenly make things better. You cannot earn healthy love by tolerating unhealthy behavior. The brutal truth is that relationships are mirrors. They reflect not only who the other person is, but also what you believe you deserve. If you constantly settle for disrespect, inconsistency, dishonesty, or emotional neglect, you slowly teach yourself that your peace is negotiable. And once you believe that, you'll continue accepting less than your worth, hoping that one day someone will finally recognize your value. But your value was never meant to depend on someone else's recognition. Today isn't about blaming anyone. It isn't about telling you to give up on love. It's about opening your eyes. It's about helping you recognize the difference between love that helps you grow and attachment that keeps you trapped. Because once you understand the brutal truth about relationships, you stop begging for crumbs, stop chasing people who keep running, and start choosing the kind of life where your peace, dignity, and self-respect are never the price you pay for someone else's attention. Today, we're going to uncover those truths together, and some of them may challenge everything you've ever believed about love. Stop chasing validation, because the moment your happiness depends entirely on someone else's approval, you quietly hand them control over your emotions. Many people enter relationships believing that love will finally make them feel enough. They think a partner's compliments will erase years of insecurity, that constant attention will fill every emotional gap, or that being chosen by someone else will somehow prove their worth. But no relationship is strong enough to carry that responsibility. When you expect another person to constantly reassure you that you're lovable, attractive, important, or valuable, you place a burden on them that no human being can carry forever. Healthy love is shared between two whole people, not built upon one person trying to repair the other's self-esteem. Think about how often people ignore their own needs just to avoid disappointing someone else. They say yes when they want to say no. They remain silent when something hurts them. They change their personality, interests, appearance, or even their dreams because they fear rejection. At first, these sacrifices may seem small, but over time they become a habit. You slowly stop recognizing yourself because you've become so focused on earning approval that you've forgotten who you really are. The relationship may continue, but the person inside it disappears piece by piece. Vulvilation feels good, and there is nothing wrong with appreciating encouragement from someone you love. The problem begins when validation becomes a necessity instead of a bonus. If one compliment can make your entire day, then one criticism can destroy it. If one affectionate message makes you feel worthy, then one unanswered text can make you question your entire relationship. Your emotional stability becomes dependent on another person's behavior, and that is an exhausting way to live. Every conversation becomes a test. Every silence feels like rejection. Every disagreement feels like proof that you're not enough. Confident people are not confident because they never experience doubt. They are confident because they don't allow someone else's opinion to define their identity. They understand that their worth exists before anyone applauds them and remains even when someone walks away. That mindset transforms relationships. Instead of desperately trying to be accepted, they focus on whether the relationship is healthy, respectful, and aligned with their values. They stop asking, how do I make this person love me more? And begin asking, does this relationship bring out the best in both of us? Ironically, the less you chase validation, the stronger your relationships often become. Why? Because authenticity replaces performance. You stop pretending to be perfect. You stop hiding your opinions. You communicate honestly instead of manipulating situations to gain approval. You become emotionally secure enough to accept that disagreements do not always mean rejection and that boundaries do not destroy love. People are naturally drawn to those who know their worth because confidence creates trust, while constant approval seeking creates pressure. Remember that every healthy relationship should add joy to your life, not become the source of your identity. Your dreams, values, friendships, passions, and personal growth should continue whether you're in a relationship or not. When you build a fulfilling life outside of your relationship, you no longer cling to someone out of fear of being alone. You choose them because they genuinely enrich your life, not because you need them to convince you that you matter. That shift changes everything because love grows strongest when it comes from two people who already believe they are enough on their own. Allowing affection to become an expression of abundance rather than a desperate search for completeness, reassurance, and constant external approval from another human being who can never define the value you already possess within yourself. Love without respect is one of the most dangerous illusions people hold on to in relationships. Many believe that strong feelings are enough to overcome dishonesty, selfishness, manipulation, or constant conflict. They tell themselves, but we love each other, as if love alone has the power to erase every unhealthy pattern. The reality is far different. Love may be the emotion that brings two people together, but respect is the foundation that keeps them together. Without respect, love slowly turns into frustration, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Respect is shown in the smallest everyday moments. It is listening without interrupting. It is valuing your partner's opinions, even when you disagree. It is honoring promises, protecting trust, and speaking with kindness instead of using words as weapons. Respect means recognizing that the person you love has feelings, boundaries, dreams, and fears that deserve the same consideration as your own. When respect disappears, these simple acts disappear too. Conversations become arguments. Differences become personal attacks. Affection becomes conditional, given only when one person gets their way. Many people mistake control for love. They believe jealousy proves someone cares. They think constant monitoring, possessiveness, or emotional pressure are signs of deep affection. In reality, control grows from insecurity, not love. A respectful partner encourages your independence rather than fearing it. They celebrate your success instead of feeling threatened by it. They trust you instead of trying to manage every aspect of your life. Love that demands you shrink yourself to make someone else feel secure is not healthy love. It is fear wearing the disguise of affection. Respect also means accepting that your partner is not an extension of you. They will have different opinions, different interests, and different ways of seeing the world. Mature relationships allow room for those differences without turning every disagreement into a battle. You don't have to win every argument to protect your dignity. Sometimes respecting someone means listening long enough to understand their perspective, even when you ultimately choose a different path. That willingness to understand creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is where lasting love grows. One of the clearest signs of respect is consistency. It is easy to be kind during the exciting early stages of a relationship. The true test comes during stress, disappointment, and conflict. Does your partner still speak to you with dignity when they're angry? Do they take responsibility when they make mistakes? Do they apologize sincerely instead of shifting blame? Respect is revealed not by grand romantic gestures, but by daily choices made when emotions are difficult and patience is tested. Respect must also exist in the way you treat yourself. If you continually excuse insults, broken promises, or repeated betrayal because you're afraid of losing someone, you send the message that your standards are negotiable. Healthy relationships require two people who value themselves enough to expect honesty, loyalty, and mutual consideration. Setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of self-respect that teaches others how they are allowed to treat you. Real love does not ask you to sacrifice your dignity. It does not require you to tolerate humiliation, emotional neglect, or constant uncertainty just to keep someone close. Instead, it inspires both people to become more patient, more compassionate, and more accountable. When love and respect exist together, trust deepens, communication becomes more honest, and both individuals feel safe enough to grow into their best selves. Without respect, even the strongest feelings eventually become weighed down by disappointment, because no amount of passion can permanently replace the stability, honor, and mutual appreciation that every lasting relationship depends upon every single day. One of the hardest truths to accept in any relationship is that actions always speak louder than words. Words are easy, promises are easy, Anyone can say, I love you, I'll change, or I'll always be there for you. But real character is revealed through consistent behavior, especially when life becomes difficult. If someone's actions repeatedly contradict their words, believe what they do, not what they say. This simple shift in perspective can save you from years of disappointment, confusion, and emotional pain. Many people stay in unhealthy relationships because they become attached to potential instead of reality. They focus on who the other person could become rather than who they consistently show themselves to be. They hold on to heartfelt apologies after repeated betrayals. They believe each new promise will finally be different. They wait for the day when excuses turn into accountability and empty words turn into lasting change. But hope without evidence often becomes a trap. It keeps people investing in a future that never arrives while ignoring the truth unfolding in front of them every single day. Trust is not built through speeches or grand declarations. It is built through small, repeated actions over time. A trustworthy person follows through on commitments, even when it is inconvenient. They communicate honestly instead of disappearing when problems arise. They show up when they say they will. They make an effort, not because they are forced to, but because they genuinely care. These everyday actions may seem ordinary, but they create the security that every healthy relationship needs. Pay close attention to patterns rather than isolated moments. Anyone can have a bad day, make a mistake, or react poorly under pressure. No one is perfect. The real question is whether their behavior forms a consistent pattern. If someone repeatedly lies, dismisses your feelings, breaks promises, or avoids responsibility, those actions are revealing who they are at this stage of their life. Waiting for one dramatic moment of transformation while ignoring months or years of repeated behavior only prolongs your suffering. Facts also reveal priorities. People often say they are too busy, too tired, or too overwhelmed to invest in a relationship. While everyone experiences demanding seasons, the truth is that people usually make time for what they truly value. Effort does not always require expensive gifts or elaborate surprises. Sometimes it looks like sending a thoughtful message, remembering an important date, listening with full attention, or making space for meaningful conversations. These simple acts communicate care more powerfully than beautiful words ever could. It is equally important to examine your own actions. Ask yourself whether your behavior reflects the kind of partner you want to be. Do you keep your promises? Do you apologize when you are wrong? Do you support your partner during difficult times, or only when things are easy? Healthy relationships are built by two people whose actions consistently reinforce trust, kindness, and respect. Accountability begins with looking inward before expecting change from someone else. One of the greatest forms of emotional maturity is learning to accept reality instead of trying to rewrite it. When someone consistently shows you who they are, believe them. Do not invent excuses on their behalf. Do not confuse occasional affection with lasting commitment. Do not mistake temporary effort after conflict for permanent change. Lasting transformation is demonstrated through repeated action over time, not emotional promises made in moments of guilt or fear. The relationships that stand the test of time are not built on beautiful speeches or perfect intentions, but on daily choices that consistently prove love through honesty, reliability, respect, patience, and unwavering commitment, even when no one is watching and there is nothing to gain except the quiet confidence that trust has been earned through genuine action rather than empty words. One of the most painful yet liberating truths about relationships is that growth sometimes requires letting go. We often hold on to people far longer than we should because we confuse familiarity with destiny. We tell ourselves that if we just wait a little longer, love a little harder, or sacrifice a little more, everything will eventually work out. But not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people enter your life to teach you a lesson, help you grow, or prepare you for a better future, not to stay with you for the rest of your journey. Letting go is difficult because it forces you to release not only the person, but also the future you imagined with them. You grieve the plans you made, the dreams you shared, and the version of life you believed you would have together. That kind of loss can feel overwhelming, which is why many people remain in relationships that no longer bring peace, respect, or happiness. They fear the pain of leaving more than the pain of staying. Yet over time, staying in a relationship that continually drains your spirit often becomes more damaging than the temporary heartbreak of walking away. Growth demands honesty. It asks you to stop pretending that repeated disappointment is just a rough patch, or that ongoing disrespect is something love should tolerate. Every relationship experiences challenges, but there is a difference between working through problems together and carrying the entire relationship on your own. If one person is constantly making excuses while the other is constantly making sacrifices, the balance has already been lost. Healthy relationships require effort from both people, not endless endurance from one. Many people believe that walking away means giving up. In reality, walking away can be one of the greatest acts of courage. It takes strength to leave a situation that has become comfortable but unhealthy. It takes confidence to choose uncertainty over continued emotional pain. It takes self-respect to recognize that your well-being matters just as much as your desire to keep someone in your life. Choosing yourself is not selfish when the relationship is consistently damaging your emotional health. There is also an important difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness comes from feeling disconnected, while solitude can become a space for healing, reflection, and personal growth. After ending a relationship, many people rush into another one simply to avoid being alone. But true growth happens when you give yourself time to understand what the relationship taught you. You begin to recognize the patterns you accepted, the boundaries you ignored, and the strengths you discovered within yourself. Those lessons become the foundation for healthier relationships in the future. Letting go does not erase the good memories or mean that the love was never real. It simply means that love, by itself, was no longer enough to create a healthy partnership. You can appreciate the role someone played in your life while still acknowledging that your paths are no longer meant to continue together. Maturity allows you to hold gratitude and acceptance at the same time without allowing nostalgia to pull you back into situations that no longer serve your highest good. Every ending creates space for a new beginning. When you release relationships that continually diminish your confidence, drain your energy, or prevent your personal growth, you make room for healthier connections, deeper peace, and a stronger relationship with yourself. You stop chasing people who repeatedly choose distance over commitment and begin investing your time in those who value your presence without making you question your worth. Sometimes the greatest breakthrough in your life does not come from holding on with more determination, but from finding the courage to open your hand. Release what no longer belongs in your future, and trust that walking away from the wrong relationship is often the first step toward the right life. One of the most powerful truths about relationships is that growth sometimes means letting go. This idea can feel uncomfortable because we are taught that real love means holding on no matter what. We admire stories of people who never give up on each other. And while commitment is important, there is a difference between fighting for a healthy relationship and clinging to one that is slowly destroying your peace. Sometimes the strongest decision you can make is not to stay, but to leave. Walking away is not always a sign that love has failed. Sometimes it is proof that self-respect has finally become stronger than fear. Many people stay in unhealthy relationships because they have invested so much time, energy, and emotion that leaving feels like throwing everything away. They think, I've already spent years with this person, or we've been through too much to quit now. But time invested should never become the reason you continue investing in something that is no longer helping you grow. If a relationship consistently leaves you feeling anxious, exhausted, disrespected, or emotionally invisible, staying longer will not magically transform it. More time cannot fix problems that both people are unwilling to address. Growth requires honesty, and honesty often begins with asking difficult questions. Does this relationship inspire me to become a better version of myself? Do I feel emotionally safe expressing my thoughts and feelings? Am I constantly making excuses for behavior that I would never accept from anyone else? If you have to keep convincing yourself that things will improve while seeing little evidence of real change, you may be holding on to hope instead of reality. Hope is valuable, but hope without action can become a prison that keeps you trapped in the same cycle year after year. One of the greatest fears people face is the fear of being alone. That fear can make almost any relationship seem better than no relationship at all. But being alone is not the same as being lonely. Many people feel deeply lonely while sitting beside someone who no longer understands, values, or respects them. Real loneliness is not the absence of a partner. It is the absence of genuine connection. Sometimes you discover more peace in your own company than you ever experienced in a relationship that demanded constant compromise without mutual care. Walking away also teaches you something incredibly valuable about your own strength. You begin to realize that your identity is not tied to one person. You are capable of creating a meaningful life, pursuing your dreams, building healthy friendships, and finding happiness without depending on someone who continually disappoints you. That realization is empowering. because it shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Instead of believing this was your only chance at love, you begin to understand that healthy relationships are built on mutual effort, not desperation. Letting go does not mean pretending the relationship never mattered. You can cherish the beautiful memories, appreciate the lessons, and acknowledge the love that once existed, while also recognizing that the relationship has reached its natural end. Every experience shapes who you become. Some people teach you how to love, while others teach you what you should never accept again. Both lessons are valuable because they prepare you for healthier connections in the future. The greatest act of courage is often choosing long-term peace over short-term comfort. It is deciding that your emotional well-being is worth protecting, even when your heart is afraid of change. Every ending creates space for a new beginning, and every goodbye opens the door to new opportunities, deeper self-awareness, and relationships that are built on trust, respect, honesty, and mutual growth, rather than fear, obligation, or the painful habit of holding on to someone who stopped choosing you long before you found the courage to choose yourself. The most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. That may sound simple, but it is a truth that changes everything. Many people spend years searching for someone who will make them feel complete, believing that happiness, confidence, and security will finally arrive when the right person enters their life. But no relationship can permanently fill the emptiness created by a lack of self-worth. If you do not value yourself, it becomes incredibly difficult to believe that anyone else truly values you. You will constantly seek reassurance, question genuine affection, and tolerate treatment that falls far below what you deserve. The relationship you build with yourself sets the standard for every other relationship in your life. If you respect yourself, you are less likely to accept disrespect from others. If you trust your instincts, you are less likely to ignore warning signs simply because you fear being alone. If you believe you deserve honesty, kindness, and loyalty, you will naturally seek relationships that reflect those values. Your inner beliefs become the foundation upon which every connection is built. Self-love is often misunderstood. It is not arrogance, selfishness, or believing that you are better than everyone else. True self-love is quietly recognizing your own worth without needing constant approval. It means forgiving yourself for past mistakes while still taking responsibility for them. It means speaking to yourself with the same compassion you would offer a close friend. Instead of constantly criticizing your flaws, you begin to appreciate your strengths while working patiently on your weaknesses. That balanced perspective creates emotional stability that no outside validation can replace. When you have a healthy relationship with yourself, you stop chasing people who continually make you question your value. You no longer beg for attention, affection, or commitment because you understand that genuine love is freely given, not constantly negotiated. You become comfortable saying no to situations that compromise your peace. You set boundaries without feeling guilty because you realize that protecting your emotional well-being is not an act of selfishness, but an act of wisdom. Developing this relationship requires intentional effort. It means spending time alone without feeling incomplete. It means pursuing your passions, learning new skills, taking care of your physical and mental health, and surrounding yourself with people who encourage your growth. It also means being honest with yourself about your own shortcomings. Personal growth happens when you are willing to acknowledge where you need to improve without allowing those imperfections to define your identity. A strong relationship with yourself also changes the way you love others. Instead of expecting someone to rescue you, you become a partner who contributes strength, kindness, and emotional maturity. You celebrate another person's success without feeling threatened. You communicate your needs clearly instead of expecting others to read your mind. You give love freely because it comes from a place of abundance rather than fear. Healthy relationships are formed when two individuals choose to walk beside each other, not when one person depends on the other to carry them through life. Remember that your worth is not determined by your relationship status. Being single does not make you incomplete, and being in a relationship does not automatically make you fulfilled. Your value existed before anyone chose you, and it will remain even if someone leaves. The more you invest in becoming the best version of yourself, the more naturally you attract relationships that reflect the respect, honesty, and kindness you already practice within. When you build an unshakable foundation of self-respect and inner confidence, love becomes something you choose to share rather than something you desperately need to survive, allowing every future relationship to be built on mutual appreciation instead of insecurity, fear, or dependence.